selling, just coming back. It goes back down, a couple of bullish candles, but then bearish one comes back and it looks quite okay all the way. Go back or climb back above that $30. So just about 3 weeks back, we saw a massive sell down in the Singapore banks due to the market selling off as well in the US, in Japan, in Singapore, right? And we hit it to some of those very key levels. So I talked about the banks about 3 weeks back and some of the key support levels, and it seems like we've indeed rebounded from some of those support levels. So where are we right now? Is it still time to be cautious, or should you be thinking about positioning yourselves to ride the reversal even further and maybe for the uptrend to continue even further? Hey guys, Joey here, top tier MyZero trader in Phillip Securities, and in this video, I'll be diving into the 3 Singapore local banks, right? What has happened over the past 3 weeks after we massively sold off? Where are we right now? What are some of the key levels? Are we actually seeing signs of the trend turning back up? That's exactly what we'll discuss. So if you want to know what are the 3 local banks doing, DBS, OCBC and UOB, how they look like on the charts, make sure you watch this video all the way to the end. Let's go. Okay, so this is DBS right here today, trading at about $35.73. So just about 3 weeks back, I did a video as well. Of course, the market sold off. We broke some of those key support levels like the $35, and I mentioned that there could be some buying pressure coming back near the next support level, near 32 or maybe even 33, because that was pretty much where we were consolidating since March. It was a resistance, we broke above it, and right over here you can see that we actually sold off to near that $32, and some bargain hunting came back, and you can see that as it retraced down, it actually retraced back to where the longer term moving averages are. Look at this, right? The red line is what we call the 100 days moving average, and the blue line is the 200 days moving average. So these two longer term moving averages acts like what we call a bit of a dynamic support level. So whenever in the short term we were to retrace back down to this longer term moving averages, that's still pointing up. I mean, the longer term trend is still up, right? That is where potentially some bargain hunting can come back again near these levels. Plus, as I mentioned, it coincides with the horizontal resistance turn support. So a very good rebound. You can see that we started to rebound about 3 weeks back, 2 weeks back from 32 to 34. And over the past week, good thing is that we have gone back above this key level, the $35, about $34.90, $35. You can see right over here, that was actually where we were holding above since like May, June. You can see support. Of course, we broke down, went all the way down, and over the past week, you can see we actually climbed back, right, above that 35 to 34.90 level. Let's say about $35. 35 is a psychological support level. So now it's 35.71, which is above 35, right? So it still looks good above this 35 new support level. So it's like 32, now you're going back to 35, and the range is quite clearly. So you can see over the past week and even last month in July, right? You can see that we have been seeing a bit of a resistance right over here. So this is DBS. You can see this is the resistance right over here, selling, just coming back. It goes back down, a couple of bullish candles, but then a bearish one comes back and push down. Same thing with the past few days, some bearish candles. Same thing, we're still seeing selling right over here. So what is this key resistance level right now for DBS? Let me just zoom it in for you. I think it is somewhere around that 36.25. Yes, $36.25. That is the resistance level since last month, since last month in July, and over the past week, it seems like we are in fact heading to that, and selling pressure is coming back. So I think we can break, as long as we stay above 35, it's still okay, but if we can finally, break above this 36.25, right, resistance level, great. That is potentially where we can see the recovery all the way back to the same $38. That was pretty much where we were in July last month, all right, just before the market sold off and all the bad news came, right? So that is pretty much where some selling can happen again. And if you take a look at this short-term trend, so normally when we look at the short-term trend, we look at what we call the 20 days moving average, which is pretty much this green line. So you can see, right, since like February, this 20 days moving average, the green line has been pointing up in April, in May, all right, in June it flattened out a little bit as it moves sideways right over here, right, and it started to point up even more. But when the market sold off, you see that this green line actually started to slope down. So you can see right now, after breaking back above that $35, you can see this green line, it is not really sloping down, it is starting to flatten out, maybe even starting to point up. All right, so I think, if we stay above that $35, eventually this green 20 days moving average line will start to eventually point up, something like this, right? That is where, all right, if we to point back up, and of course if we break that 36.25, that could be another confirmation, all right, of the reversal happening towards that $38. Okay, let's take a look at OCBC Bank right now. How do we look? Should we be thinking about buying? Are we out of the woods? Let's take a look. And by the way, guys, if you like this video, you found some value so far in what I'm sharing, you learned something, go ahead to give me a like, smash the subscribe button, hit the follow button. That will definitely help out the channel, and then you will not miss out on any videos like this as well. All right, so go ahead to do that. All right, thank you so much. Let's move on to OCBC. So OCBC trading at about $14.31. So you can see, right, we actually traded lower over the past 3 weeks, right, after hitting a high of around $15 right over here. Of course, the market weakened, market sold off, and we went back down to this very critical support level right over here. That would be the $13.50. That was where we were near as well. In June, rebounded. Same thing, was a bit of a resistance in May. You can see we broke above it, started to push up. So $13.50, as I mentioned in my previous video as well, that could be where some bargain hunting can come back, right? So yeah, we saw some bullish candles coming back, and also you can see that, as I mentioned just now, it also nears where the longer term moving averages are. So for OCBC, in fact, it has been in a very firm longer term, I say again, longer term uptrend, I would say, since last year, not short term, in the long term, because you can see that the 100 days moving average, this red line, the 100 days moving average, and even the blue line, the 200 days moving average, right, since like even end of 2022 or beginning of last year, it has already been pointing up very gradually. The red is above the blue, and right now, of course, the red is still above the blue, right? So longer term uptrend for OCBC, very gradual, very slow and steady moving up. So this is where you want to get in on counters like this on any short term weakness. All right, so in the long term it can be up, but of course in the short term we may see some selling, like what we saw maybe in November. You can see selling happen, right? In February last year, selling happened. So in the short term you can see up and down, it might go down, but as it pulls back down to those longer term support or longer term moving averages, or maybe back to those key support levels whereby buyers came back previously, that could be kind of like an opportunity to time your entry, to get in, to catch the reversal. So you can see, right, we rebounded from that $13.50 level, and one thing good is that we have actually got back above that $14. So $14 was a little bit of a support. We broke down, we consolidated below it for like about a week, but you can see over the past week managed to come back up above 14, and good thing we are now above the $14 support. So now it's 14.30 right now, from 31 to 30, right? So the market is still trading right now, right? So anything above $14, I think it looks quite okay, all the way towards that $15 psychological resistance level. That was pretty much where we were in July, about a month back before the market sold off, right? So same thing, right? There's some signs of strength. Of course, longer term is up, in the short term it was down over the past 3 weeks, but right now there are some signs of the short-term trend potentially starting to turn up. Why? Well, you can see that finally prices of this candlestick bar have gone above the 20 days moving average. This green line, I mean, of course, it's still slightly sloping down, right? Slightly sloping down, but as I mentioned, I think if you can stay above that $14, it will slowly maybe flatten out first, and maybe even start to reverse back up slowly. I think that would be a confirmation that the short-term trend has turned up, and that's where potentially we might see the rebound happening, whereby not only the longer-term trend is up, but the short-term trend is up as well. And we could see the reversal all the way towards 15. Of course, if 15 were to give way, with to break the $15, upside targets can be raised to $15.50 or maybe even that $16. Okay, let's move on to the third and final Singapore bank, and that would be UOB, right? And by the way, guys, if you want to find out in terms of the entire strategy, the one good trend strategy that I'm using, I don't have time to cover everything, it's just pretty much diving into the charts. But if you want to find out about the entire strategy on pretty much how do we pick winning stocks, how do we know when to get in, when to get out, how do we tell the trend and all that, what comes first, what comes next, make sure you attend one of those free webinars that I'm still running. The link is right below the video, around the video. Click on it, register for this 2 hours webinar whereby I'll share with you guys a little bit more on the entire 1GT, the One Good Trend framework, and how we have a system to also guide us on entry and exit. All right, so let's talk about UOB right now at about $30.60, right? So for UOB, right, it has been a bit of a laggard, I would say, since about 2-3 years back. Whereas, for OCBC, very gradual uptrend, right? But I mentioned in my previous video as well, for UOB, we were actually moving sideways for most part of 2022 and 2023. You could see, right, we were actually below this very key resistance level, about $28, right? $28. It has been adjusted slightly lower due to dividends and all that, so it's adjusted for dividends. So you can see that is a very key level whereby we have been trading below since 2022, right? So a bit of a sideways movement, not really a very long-term uptrend compared to the OCBC that happened since like 1-2 years ago, right? So UOB is sideways, but when we finally break above that resistance right over here, of course, when that happened, that is a good sign of strength, right? Good sign of strength, of buyers ready to now move it up from that sideways to potentially even higher. So when it broke that 28, great. You can see the trend indicators, the moving averages started to turn up. The red and the blue line both started to turn up as well, right? So push up, consolidated below that $30 psychological resistance, a bit of a target. Same thing, we broke it, went all the way up, and it seems like right now we are seeing a bit of a resistance around that $32.40, right? So let's talk about where we are right now. What has happened over the past 3 weeks for UOB? So you can see over the past 3 weeks, same thing, right? We sold off quite badly. We broke that $31, even that $30 psychological support just gave way as well. But you can see we headed to where that $28, 28 to 29 level right over here. That's also where the longer term moving averages line are, right? The red and the blue line, the 100 days moving average and the 200 days moving average lines are. So you can see right over here, and then buyers started to come back. So that was what I mentioned in the previous video, all right? Around 29, 28, that's potentially where some bargain hunting can come back. So we saw a couple of bullish candles, great, rebounded, and same thing, right? We need to get past a very key resistance level, right? So we don't want to just rebound and then come back now. We want to rebound and then maybe consolidate a little bit below a resistance and then eventually breaking that resistance, right? That could be a confirmation. You can see right here, we managed to go back or climb back above that $30. So 30, as I mentioned, was that psychological resistance. So you can see now is 30.58, all right, which is above $30. So let's change this red line to green, because now it has turned into what we call a support level. So what could be the upside for UOB? Well, maybe right now we may see, over the past week, it seems like we are seeing a little bit of a resistance near 31. So a little bit of a temporary resistance. So I think the range is quite clearly about $1, right? From $30 all the way to that $31, right? So I think if we can stay above 30, all right, great. That is where potentially the short-term trend can start to turn up. And so now it's still slightly pointing down because it's only like 2 or 3 days, but I think eventually, as I mentioned, if we can stay above that 30, this green 20 days moving average line will slowly flatten out and maybe even start to point up, all right? And of course, after breaking that 31, we could see the reversal all the way up to $32.40. That would be the most recent high we've seen in July. All right, so it looks quite good. I think for UOB, the longer term trend is up, all right, since like I would say April, May. The short term, we did see a bit of weakness over the past 3 weeks, but right now there are some signs of a strength slowly coming back as long as we hold above like the support level, like the $30. Alright guys, so there we have it. Just a very quick video talking about the 3 Singapore local banks, and that's what I get asked quite often as well from my clients. So I hope you have a better idea of where we are right now for each of the 3 banks in terms of the longer term, in terms of the short term, in terms of the trend, and in terms of some of the support levels that have came out over the past couple of days. Right? So Joey here, thank you so much for watching, and as I mentioned, if you want to find out a little bit more in terms of the entire strategy of how we pick winning stocks, when to get in, when to get out, make sure you attend one of those free webinars that I'm still running. Alright. Hit the like button, the follow button, subscribe so that you will not miss out on any videos like this as well. Joey here, I'll see you soon. Take care.